Hello, Williston. I'm Steve Shepard, and I'm a new member of the Williston Planning Commission. I've been on the commission now for about a month, and I want to tell you how impressed I am with the work that the planners have done and are doing to make our town more sustainable and livable and walkable and resilient. That, to me, is what community is all about. I had the opportunity to sit down a few days ago with the town planners, and before I go on, let me apologize for something. About the time we started the interview, somebody decided it was a really good idea to weed whack right outside the window, so my apologies for the noise.
I'm Matt Belanger. I'm the planning director for the town.
I'm Emily Heyman, senior planner.
Melinda Scott, senior planner.
The town is kicking off the process of updating and enriching the town plan. It's a complicated process, but according to Melinda Scott, this time they're doing it differently than they ever have before.
I think this is a pretty radical departure from the plans that have been done in the past, the town plans, not just in Williston, but in other places as well. I think that typically what we've seen is the public outreach consists of one or two events where you get maybe 20 people in a room and you say, oh, we're doing a new town plan, and you might ask people's opinions about some things, but you're reaching a very select group of people in town. And so the goal of this project is really to try to reach more people who have been historically underrepresented in town governance.
The plan is called Williston 2050. I asked Matt to give me an overview.
Williston 2050 is the name for the town's effort to write its next comprehensive plan. And between now and Thanksgiving, we're really talking about the activities we're going to do to bring a lot of citizen engagement into that plan. So this is when we want to talk to people in town about what the town's long-range goals should be and how it should try to achieve them. The fabric image is a weave of what we call the required elements of a town plan, the things that the state of Vermont says need to be included in the town plan, with some concepts related to the idea of being livable, resilient, and equitable.
Let me interrupt Matt for just a moment. The weave that Matt is referring to is the graphic that the town planners use as an engagement tool. It's sort of a matrix. Across the top are the terms livable, resilient, and equitable, and then below them, each is further broken down into several subcategories. For example, livable is broken into affordable, welcoming, sociable, and beautiful. Down the left side are the 12 fabric elements that the state of Vermont requires that each town take into account when formulating its development plans. They include things like objectives, policies and programs, land use, transportation, education, natural, scenic, and historic resources, and so on. You can download a copy of that graphic at williston2050.com. And now back to Matt.
There's nothing that the state of Vermont says that you need to talk about how to make your town more livable or more equitable. There's a little bit in resilience, but it's usually talked about as like hazard mitigation. What will you do if something bad happens? And resilience is quite a bit broader topic than that, as we found out through COVID or thinking about the track of the economy in town and other things like that. So fabric of a town plan, let's weave livable, resilient, equitable against the other things that our town plan typically talks about. And it provides us in that weave metaphor all of these different intersections. We can talk about how to make education something that makes the town more resilient, or we can talk about how transportation might make the town more livable. And you can imagine how it goes from there.
Melinda pointed out earlier how this planning effort is different from those the town has engaged in previously. So I asked Matt why it matters.
Yeah, our citizen decision makers on the Planning Commission and ultimately the Select Board are really looking to create a plan that has a strong foundation in the input and the desires and the observations of the community. Going and asking people questions, asking them to come participate in events, it's a way that someone can get involved in their town without making a really long-term commitment. You can fill out a survey, you can come to one of the events, you can write a letter to the Planning Commission or just talk with a Planning Commission member. Those members, along with the town staff, and again, ultimately the Select Board, are going to be working together over the next year to turn all of that foundation into this really comprehensive document that is kind of the to-do list for the town for the next 8 years, 2025 through 2032. So we'll have a vision, we'll have goals in some of those subcategories I talked about, and then we'll talk about, big word, implementation, which really just means doing stuff. And what are we going to try to do first? What are we going to spend the most resources on? What are we going to try to get done in 2025? What are we going to try to get done by 2032? How does that all play into the town's long-range vision? So we're encouraging citizens to think really quite longer range than people probably think in their everyday life, and what might change in Williston, what might be different, but also what's working and what should we keep doing. That's just as important sometimes to know about from the community as what people want to see that's different.
So I asked Melinda and Emily what we can expect over the next few weeks.
Planning Commission and staff will be going around to some of the neighborhoods that are more easily walkable and might be a little bit far away from the hub of activity. We'll be asking them, some questions about what is it they like about living in Williston, what are some challenges they see, and what do they see as the best way to address those challenges, as just sort of a general introduction to how we're kind of focusing the outreach of the town plan. And then just offering them information about the events that we're going to be holding and giving them information about the dates and the places and inviting them to participate.
Well, I'd say we're looking for people who live in Williston, but also work, play, shop in town. So a lot of different people engage with our town in different ways. The door knocking in our outreach campaign is to let people know about our series of events coming up, as well as our soon-to-launch survey online, to have their voice heard. What are things that people like about the town? What are some of the challenges? Where do they see opportunities? What are their goals and priorities for themselves, their families, and our community as a whole? And we can take all of those voices that we hear and then implement them more formally in the goals and policies of the town plan.
So let me summarize. Sometime over the next couple of weeks, somebody from the Planning Commission, either a staff member or a volunteer, may knock on your door to share some information with you. We're not collecting money and we're not trying to recruit anyone, but we are recruiting your ideas and input. We won't take more than a couple of minutes of your time, but your thoughts really are important to us, so please share them. And please consider attending one of the events that are being scheduled in October and November. And if you can't attend in person, there will be a Zoom event on November the 14th. Now, the truth is, we've already started the process of collecting information. Here's Emily again.
We've been going out in the community a lot more. So we've been doing outreach events through the summer, and we'll continue to do them in the fall. Meeting people, like Melinda says, not always an evening meeting, but weekends, community events. Go where the people are to try to meet new faces and let the people know in the town about the upcoming events.
We really want to bring this effort to people where they are. I think Melinda and Emily both just spoke to that. We know that when we say, come to town hall on a Tuesday for 2 hours, it's a very limited slice of the population that's even going to be interested in doing that. And, if we only base a plan on that effort, it won't reflect the broader preferences of the community.
And what can attendees expect at these events?
We have a general outline. So the doors will open about 5:30 or 1:30, depending on an evening or afternoon event. We'll have food, some exhibit activities. Folks can mingle with staff and planning commission members. We have a fun, lively presentation planned that'll start at 2 p.m. or 6 p.m. That is going to be something that you won't want to miss. We have some fun surprises in store. And then we'll break out into small groups where, led by town planners, either staff or volunteers, will guide a small group in a conversation about those 12 elements Matt was talking about in 5 key areas. So homes and people, transportation and mobility, parks, facilities and programming, economy and jobs.
And then at the end of the more structured exercise, people will be free to stick around for a while. We'll have some maps and big prints of things up on the walls in the event venue so people can add their input to something physical like that as well. Putting sticky dots on things. The big takeaway I would like to give people, though, is there's no homework required and there's no qualifications required other than you're someone who has been in Williston, cares about Williston. Again, live, work, second home, newcomer, old timer. We would really like to see everybody at these events, and you don't have to do anything to prepare. If you want to do something to prepare, you might just think about, well, what would I like this place to be going into the long-term future, maybe even beyond when I'm here. The other part I would mention beyond the events is always trying to, when I'm encouraging people to come to things like this and participate, is the power of planning in a place like Vermont and in a place like Williston that does tend to set out goals for itself and then go achieve them. There's a lot of evidence in Williston of that sort of sequence of putting something in the long-range plan and then going and doing it. So, we were talking today about forestry activities at the Catamount property, and the fact that that's a town-owned property certainly has its roots in the goals of the town plan around open space conservation and providing recreation opportunities. We were talking about the resilience of the Taft Corners area, in that if one intersection has a problem with the signal, there are ways to drive around it, because the town has said since the late 1980s that there should be a grid of streets there. That's also a big resilience factor. And any number of other regulatory or programmatic or budget priority things the town has done over the years have turned into a physical result that you can go out and see and touch and feel in the town, that are not necessarily things that were just inevitably going to happen. They're things that the town chose to make happen. And so here we're at that point again where the town gets to make those choices again. That's really exciting. It's exciting to be working on it from the staff side, and I think it's also exciting for citizens to be able to come in and take a look around. Here's what the town looks like today. All right, let's make a plan for the next 8 years.
I'd like to thank Matt Boulanger, the Williston Town Planner, and Melinda Scott and Emily Heyman, the town's senior planners. Folks, you can learn more about the ongoing planning effort and the Williston 2050 vision by visiting www.williston2050.com or by visiting the Planning Commission's webpage at the Williston Town website. You can also reserve your place at the table, if you will, for one of the upcoming events that we talked about. This is our town. Every voice matters. Make sure yours is heard. I'm Steve Shepard. On behalf of the Williston Planning Commission, thanks for listening, and thanks for helping to guide the future of Williston.